This is the real reason why you're depressed that nobody's going to tell you about. We all know what depression feels like. This state of unhappiness 24/7, constant burnout and exhaustion, like our dreams and ambitions are weighing us down because we'll never get to actualize them, because things will never get better. That's a terrible way to live life. But what if I told you you're not depressed? You're just aware of what's missing. Think about it. The fact that you feel depressed just goes to show that you can imagine a better life. You can imagine better circumstances and a better outcome. The fact that you can imagine those things goes to show that you're not stuck, that the depression and the things you feel are not true. They're just the lens you're using to look at your life. Depression is actually a tool for alignment, along with every other emotion. When you feel good, it just goes to show that everything out here is aligned with what's in here. But when you feel bad, it's just showing you that something out here is not aligned with all that's in here. For a lot of my life, for most of my life, I spent my life looking through this depressed lens, this angry, unhappy, unfulfilled lens of I'm not enough, or things are not good enough, life doesn't treat me fair, I don't have enough, I'm just trying to survive. I have all these hopes and all these dreams. How the hell do I get there? Because everything out here sucks. Looking at life through this lens of I'm depressed brought me to my knees. It brought me to my rock bottom. It brought me to a halfway house. It brought me through the streets, through homelessness, through drug addiction, through jail, through rehab, and all the way to a halfway house. And when I got to that halfway house on that first day, that's when everything changed. That's when I decided to look depression in its face and ask it who it was. What is it? What is depression? Am I depressed? Or what is depression? And boom, it clicked. Everything clicked. Depression is a tool. Depression is the one thing that will guide me away from this shitty circumstance that I'm in, away from all my bad habits and bad decisions. Because I was always trying to look for something out here to cure this depression, to run away from this depression, to get rid of this depression. But as soon as I started to use this depression as a tool, my life started to get better, almost like magic. Almost like our outer world comes from our inner world. Almost like the lens we look at our life through really impacts the life we live. I was in this halfway house and I had every reason to be depressed, to be angry, to be anxious, to be just not happy. And most of my peers, most of the people around me did just that. But I decided I'm going to use this depression. I'm going to use this frustration, this anger, this anxiety. And every time it comes up, every time something out here triggers this feeling within me, I'm going to use it. And I'm going to use it to look at the lens that I'm using to look at my life. And sure enough, every time those feelings came up and I checked in with my lens, with my perspective, with my mindset, it was always one of, I'm not good enough. Life is not good enough. Life is not treating me fairly. I don't have enough. I'm not free. And when I shifted my perspective to, I'm doing everything in my power, I'm strong, I'm capable, life is treating me fairly, the opposite of all these things, life changed. And you may say, well, that's just delusional. That's just positive thinking. The program I was in was a 4 to 6 month program. 4 to 6 months. And in that time, I could have felt like I wasn't free because I wasn't. I was the most restricted I had been other than being in jail. When I went to sleep, when I eat, when I go to work, when I use my phone, when I do any of these things, it was not up to me. That's not freedom. But I started to shift my perspective. I started to feel freer than I had ever felt in all the years of drug use and any other time in my life. I ended up getting out of that program an entire month early. I got out of that program in 3 months. And I know wholeheartedly that it's because I decided to feel free. I decided to regulate my inner world and not make it depend on my outer world. I saw the connection between my inner world and my outer world, and for most of my life I had it backwards. I assumed that the outer world was in charge of the inner world. And when I shifted that, when that paradigm was broken, was shattered into a million pieces and shifted into the inner makes the outer, my inner world regulates the outer world, I became unstoppable. I started to make massive change from homeless junkie, homeless Kensington drug addict, to happy, healthy, carefree, living my life on purpose. The relationships I have attracted in my life today, I wouldn't trade for anything. The sense of fulfillment I have in my life today, I wouldn't trade for anything. The freedom and peace I can always come to within myself, I wouldn't trade for anything. Everything I have today is a result of understanding that none of this has to dictate in here. And when it starts to, shit is backwards. And that's when I start to crash. That's when things start to get worse. But when I allow myself to cultivate peace, happiness, joy, freedom, fulfillment within here, everything out here starts to blossom. Even when it seemingly didn't look like it was going to. Even when it looked like things were going downhill, I stayed true to my perspective. I used my emotions, like depression, to check in with my perspective, with my lens through which I look at life, with my mindset through which I think about my current circumstance and situation. It wasn't until I decided what my perspective would be that things changed. It wasn't until I started to use my depression as a tool that things changed. Depression was the one thing, along with anxiety, frustration, anger, sadness, and any other negative emotion, that pulled me out of that shitty spot, that pulled me out of the depression. The depression was the cure for the depression. If this resonates with you, I really hope you use it. I really hope you start to make change. If you guys are interested in talking with me, check out the Discord link below. I love you. Dream on purpose.